Okay, we are going to work with hooking up an interface to our computer to run Audacity for making recordings. And so I've got my interface set up here. This is the microphone coming in. You can see the 48 volt light is lit up because this is a condenser mic. And I have an instrument cable coming in here as well. Coming out here is my headphones, so I can hear what's going on. Go ahead and get rid of that. The program here, Audacity, if you've got the latest version, of course it's free, so you know I'm always upgrading to the latest version. I don't know where we're at these days. Let's see, where's help? Audacity for me. 2.4.2 is the latest version that I've got. This view here is of an older version. I actually prefer a darker version, so I'm going to actually do a couple of things to show you how to set up your interface with it, as well as change some of the settings that might be better for me. So right off the bat, under the edit button, there are preferences, or you can go Control P, and I'm going to go through and change some of those preferences. The device, this is hooking up to the interface. There's a couple of different things we're going to try. We're going to start with the MME, which really works with about everything. For the playback, I'm going to open this up, and you'll open up and you can see here's the Scarlett Solo, which is what this interface is. And so I'm going to click on that, and so it'll be playing back through that device and recording the microphone. I will also want through the Scarlett, so I will do that. For our recordings that we're going to be doing, mostly for the things we do, we're recording a single track. So we're recording in mono. So I'm going to go ahead and move that to mono. And for right now, I'm going to put my latency compensation at 0. We'll be adjusting that later. So that's setting that up. Some other things that I might want to do in preferences. Like I said, I prefer a different view simply because I stared at this one for way too many years. So now I need to change my view. So I'm going to go to interface, and I'm going to go with a darker theme. It'll be the same thing, it just looks a little bit different. It'll look darker, so I like that better. Okay, so to get this started here, the first thing we typically do when we're putting together a track is we'll start with a metronome, and we can find that under Generate here. I click Generate, and I'm going to go to a rhythm track, and it's going to open up this menu. The song I'm going to do, let's do something in 6/8 time. So I'm going to say it has 6 beats, and we won't mess with any swing beat yet. We'll stick with just a short thing. Let's just do 8 bars, and as far as metronome sounds, metronome clicks. If I click on this preview, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and that's not bad. I can deal with that. There's a variety of sounds if you want something else. Actually, I'll go with that. It's a little sharper sound. So we'll do that. And tempo wise, I'm going to go 180. I'm going to go with a faster beat, I think. So here's my metronome, and when I play it, I'm going to use the space bar to play it. Okay, so that'll be my metronome. And that, put it in there, and when I scroll over, you can see it goes to the 8 bars, and then it stops. Okay, that's my audio track 1. So now I'm ready to put down my song. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to always allow the metronome to play before I start. So when I'm sending this out, everybody can hear the metronome for a couple of measures before they start. So my goal is to start right here. Now, like I said, for starting, I'm going to record in mono. A couple of things I want to look at, though. back to preferences is how it starts recording. So I'm going to go to the recording here, and I want to be able to play other tracks while recording. I want to overdub. In other words, I want to be able to hear this while I'm recording. And so I'm going to have that clicked on. And then when I hit record, when I hit the record button up here, I want it to record on a new track. And so I'm going to have those two clicked. We can get into some of this stuff a little bit later when we start adding more tracks and getting a little more into the specific kind of editing or recording where I want to punch in and that kind of stuff. I'm not going to mess with any of that right now. So playback, let's see. I don't need to mess with any of that. Tracks. I don't need to mess with any of that. Track behavior. Everything looks fine. Yeah, I think we'll be fine with what we have now. So basically, when I hit record, it's going to start recording on this next track. And it's going to record anything that I have coming through my interface. So right now, the volume for the microphone is up. You can see the green light every time I'm talking, giving me the signal. And that's if I get too close to the microphone, I can distort it, get to red. And so you're setting this as your input gain. You want to keep it as much green as you can. If you're getting red, back off it a little bit. I have an instrument plugged into my second one. I've got it completely turned off for right now. Just as a note though, with this unit, if I did want to sing and play an instrument at the same time, I could record it into a stereo track, a single stereo track, and it would put this on one and on the left side, and this would be on the right hand side. Then within Audacity, I could separate those two tracks. So you actually can record two tracks at a time that way. And if we have time, we'll mess with that. So let's see, let's start with a guitar track. And so I'm going to grab a guitar. Like I say, we're just doing a short example here. I'm just going to record the guitar through the microphone, and we're not looking for quality, we're just looking for information right now. So when I come up and hit the record button, I will hear the click, and my goal is to come in right here and stay with the beat. So. That's all I get. Now you'll notice that it automatically stopped when I got here, and that's because this track was still somewhat highlighted, and so it was following what that track did. If I click off of that onto here, that top arrow thing went away. That's something to kind of keep in mind. Sometimes you're recording and it'll stop recording and wonder why. Check that top arrow out, and that means that you have another track highlighted or selected. So, so if I want to listen to my selection, I'm just going to solo this. Hit play. We can hear this. You can hear a little bit of noise. Okay, so there's my first track. And I do have a little bit of noise in there, and we can talk about removing that. Now, what is interesting is if we listen to this and this at the same time, unmute that. Okay, obviously I am not playing to the metronome. Now, what I did was I was playing to the metronome, but what I'm hearing from the metronome is going, coming out of my interface, and what I'm recording is going into the recorder here, and it's being processed and put into digital, and that takes time. So there is a slight delay happening. Well, it's not slight, it's pretty obvious. So if I'm going to click on my tools here. By the way, on these tools, this is what they call a selection tool, where you kind of select, I want to start here, or I want to look at this area right here. That's a selection tool. I'm going to go to the zoom tool, and come in here, and I'm just right clicking and it's zooming in. And so this is the beat that I was supposed to start on, which I did, but by the time it processed, it played here. So a couple of ways to fix this. One real easy way is you can come over here to the arrow tool and simply drag this to line up. Okay, and that works. We're going to go with probably a different method, but let me go ahead and zoom back out. Oh, zoom back out. And that's gonna, if I play that. Okay, that works. What we want to do ideally is, I want to back that up, is what this delay is called latency, and we're going to make an adjustment to that latency. And the way we make that adjustment, every computer is different, every situation is different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at how much delay is actually there. So I'm going to come to the beginning of this one, and I'm going to drag this here, and I'm going to go to the beginning of that one. Okay, and then I'm going to look down here. Down here you'll see the start and length of the section. So this is saying it's starting right at 4 or 3.999, and then going all the way, and it's running 144 milliseconds. 144 milliseconds. So what I need to do is I need to take those 144 milliseconds out. Okay, and that will change that. So I'm going to go back to my preferences, and I pointed this out earlier in the preferences under the device, latency compensation. So I'm going to go to that. I'm going to type minus to take it out, and 144 milliseconds. So if I were to go back, and I'm going to go ahead and mute that channel. Okay, and I'm going to go back and record the same guitar part again. I've got, and again, I simply hit record. It'll add another track. I've got this one muted so I don't hear that, and I've got this one soloed, so I will hear the metronome again. So when I click record, it'll start another track. Whoops, you see how that did that? It only played that section, so erase that one to start again. One of the keys, hit this rewind all the time, and it'll take it back to the beginning, and that clears the arrow most of the time as well. Okay, recording. Okay, so that recorded that. You can see it's continuing to record. Stop that. And let's see if I zoom in. You'll see that it, even though I started with the metronome, it has shifted that back, that towards the beginning. And so now that is actually, when I play this back to beginning. So why isn't that playing? This is on solo. So it's only going to play that. So I got to take that off of solo. Now it will play. I can still mute this one and not hear that one. Let me go ahead and move this back to what we can all see there. Okay, so now these first two tracks will play, or first and third. Okay, and from now on, every track I record it'll follow that latency, so it will be lined up, so I'm not moving things all the time. So I'm going to delete that one. I also don't need all of my talking here, so I can clean this track up a little bit and go there and delete that. Select that, my selection tool. I can also do the same thing in the beginning. If I want to clean that up a little bit, take my selection tool, take that, delete that, clean that up. Whoops, did you see what happened? See how it moved forward like that? So what I did was I just deleted part of the track and it moved forward, and that didn't give me my introduction. So when we want to clean something like that, what we can do is we can silence the audio in this section. So the part of the track stays, but we're going to silence that. So I can take that, click that, and I don't know if you could see that line went from having some little bumps in there, which is sound. When I click on that, it's completely dry. So when I go back and I listen to, let's say I just listen to just that track, starting from right here, it's just absolute silence until the guitar starts, except for the click. Let me go ahead and mute that as well. Okay, I'm gonna figure this out. All right, here we go. So it's gonna be okay, and then the music starts. So got that. So let's say we wanted to record a second track now. So I would rewind here. I'm going to unmute this. I may or may not want to listen to the guitar, so I'll go ahead and I would just decide. I would hit mute if I didn't want to hit it, or just let it play. Let's go ahead and mute it, and I'm going to do the same thing. Let's go with mandolin track just for fun. And this is going through the microphone as well. I hit record, it will set up its own new track. I'll be able to hear the metronome, and I'll play along with the mandolin, and that will be it. Fancy. Stop that. Okay, clean that up at the end. That. Okay, and I should be able to. Now you'll see I did in the very beginning. I did a editing where the downbeat was. I came in a little bit early, and you can actually see that there. But it should all line up. I'm gonna go ahead and unmute the guitar, and we can. Okay, and of course at any time if you wanted to get rid of that click track, you could do that as well, and you wouldn't have to listen to this beginning. You can just start it wherever you want to. Okay. And mess with the panning, mess with the volume. You can set up your mix any way you want. Double click, you can easier to get it back to 0. Double click, put 0. The other thing is adjusting the volume of each of those. You can do that here, or if you are starting to set up a whole bunch of tracks, you can go into View, Mixer Board, and it will give you the channels of what you have so far. Now I have not labeled my tracks, and at this point we go, oh, I should have been doing that. Label the tracks over here where it says name, and I can give that one as a click. I can, so name your tracks, not a bad idea. Okay, so let's say I wanted to send this out as a click track for other people to play along to. Let's say I wanted a little more guitar in there so they could hear that, a little less mandolin in there. And I also messed with the stereo panning just a little bit just to make it more interesting if they were listening with headphones. And the click, but I want them to hear the click because that's what they're going to play along to. Listen to that. Oh, no click. Okay. So if I wanted to send that out as an entire song, and they would then play along with that, I'm going to go to File and go to Export, and I'm going to export it as an MP3. And when I do that, I need to decide where I want it, and let's say this is scratch track 1. Okay, and send that out. Save that. tracks will be mixed and exported as one stereo file. Now the reason it's doing that, because I messed with the panning a little bit, so it said, oh, he wants stereo, so it would do that. Sometimes it'll just say it's going to go out as a mono file, and that's I like to have these warnings to tell me, oh, okay, that's what I want. So okay, so when I click OK, if I wanted to name it all, I can do that. It's already been named, but this adds the name to the file internally, so but I'll just say OK, and then that is done. Okay, so I can take that MP3 file, send it out to my friends if they wanted to add a track to it, and well, let's imagine what they see. So let's say they open up their stuff. Okay, and the first, so they're ready. Oh, look, I got a file from Frank. Let me see what we got. And they would go to their email. They would open it up, or they would put it in a folder, and then open up their Audacity, go to File, and they would go to Import Audio, and they would go, oh, okay, here it is right here. And when they double click on it, there it is right there. It's the mix with the metronome and the instruments that I gave. Okay, and so now they have a mix of what I did, and they could add their notes too. Now, of course, they would have to be aware that, okay, when they start playing along, they're going to have to adjust their latency to that, but that's their problem, not yours. So if I were to add, let's say I wanted to add another file, what could I add? There we go. Add some bass, just easy bass part here, just for the sake of adding something else. Okay, so when I hit record, now I'm curious because this is I believe it still do mono, even though this is a stereo file. We'll see what it does. There's our bass part, and again we can clean up what we want to. You'll notice these are strong, relatively strong files here that I've been doing because I've done pretty well with my gain. If you end up with a track that is appears to be too quiet, you can always go in and we can compress and normalize if you want to give it a little some more gain. And so to do that, I would just highlight what I want to. Let me go ahead and shrink this one down so I can see what's going on. If I wanted to compress and give this more gain, if that was a weak signal, I would come to my effects and I would just hit compressor, and that's going to compress. But down here it also says it's going to make up for gain. It's going to take it up to 0 dB, which is similar to normalizing. So I could say okay to that. You can see how it made that a bigger signal. If I didn't want the compression in there, but I wanted to give it more gain, I could go to effects and go to normalize. Okay, and typically it's to 0. Right now it's set at -1, but you get the idea. And that will keep it all. You're not doing any compressing, but you're raising the gain without going into distortion. So that gives you that. And then from there, okay, so now you've done your bass part, and you can listen to just your bass part, or if you want, solo your bass part, or you can listen to how does it fit in with the song. Okay, and and so then I would say, okay, well, that's good. And then I would take my my part there, and I would, okay, so I'm gonna go select. So I'm selecting that part, and I could then go File, and I'm gonna export. Instead of just export audio, I'm gonna go to export selected audio here. Okay, selected audio, because I've selected some audio, and that's, I only want to send that. So I'm going to go select audio, click on that, and then I can write bass and save that. Okay, and then I can send that bass out to my other people who have theirs. So if I back this up a whole bunch to where they had this, now they could go in, get their email, import audio. Oh, look, there's a bass part. They can import, now they have that bass part in their tracks now too. And they can continue to build. You'll notice that even though we took that section, you can see that everything lines up the way it's supposed to. So when they're listening, we'll mute. We don't need to hear the click right now. So we go back and forth building tracks that way, and everybody sends in, and that's it. Okay, and I'll leave you with that.